Dobar dan svima I hvala na strpljenju. Izdržali ste dug dan. But I'll give this small lecture in English today. So the topic, as mentioned, is on BIM and digitalization competencies. What are the challenges we face currently and what is a possible road ahead? A bit on my background, so where do I come from and from which position I speak. I've studied and done my PhD in Serbia, University of Belgrade. It was related to critical success factors of large-scale infrastructure projects. After that, I moved to the UK, University of Leeds, where I still teach on the topics of people, organizational performance, project management, business strategy, all for engineers. I've also been involved in the association BIM Serbia, and apart from that, I've been a consultant in project management, risk management, large-scale, again, projects in Russia, in Georgia, around this region, and specifically in the last 2 years with European Investment Bank and Council of European Development Bank. Quite an interesting period for that indeed. On the other side, my entrepreneurial part of background journey, I founded and we run with a group of enthusiasts a digital platform that basically helps with recruitment in engineering as a sector. So connects very simply companies that have open jobs or part-time project-related positions with engineers and other kind of white-collar professionals. We also help companies with employer branding, with marketing, and we offer career development opportunities through training and education, all in a digital format, and it's totally free to use in any form for engineers, for individual professionals. It's called Oruk and available on oruk.net. What specifically in terms of the lecture we speak about today? We have heard in very interesting sessions about digitization, about digitalization, digital transformation. We start from digitization as a process of turning information from analog to digital. Digitalization is making processes more automated using the digital information. And then digital transformation as our goal and the topic today mostly has been making new business applications of integrated digitized data and automated processes. So it's a step further. We are well aware of the evolution. We face evolution of both expectations and possibilities nowadays. So what do we need to evolve properly, to be the fittest, as Mr. Darwin has told some time ago? We need skills, of course, and today we have heard a lot about practical skills. What do we need for applying BIM specifically to different range of projects? So what would be an example of a skill? It would be using Revit in terms of the BIM context. Apart from skills, we need competencies, and competencies are a bit wider concept than skills. They include, apart from skills, they include abilities, they include knowledge. An example of a competency would be effective, how we do something, effective quantity takeoff, or structural engineering then supported by a BIM tool. And why are the competencies important? Why do we need competencies? Because competencies translate strategic vision and goals, either personal or company-based, to employee actions and behaviors. And these, in turn, result in organizational success. So we need competencies in order to be competitive on the market, either individually, personally as engineers, or companies. How do we build, then, competencies, either related to BIM or digitalization, digital transformation? There are two ways, most common ways. One is on the job, the second one off job. On the job, we have options. We can self-develop, and I think most of you, in terms of applying BIM in engineering context, have been to a degree self-developed. We have a social learning, which is not only social media, but it's learning from peers, from your colleagues. Manager coaching, maybe not that present in our region here, but is still very relevant and needed aspect of learning. Mentoring, again, as a process, as a scheme, very important, not that present maybe. And learning technologies, very present nowadays. Off-job learning consists of options of formal education, so universities, or specific courses, and training as a smaller one. How we connect competencies with learning options. So an example from the University of Leeds, where we measure, basically we firstly promote what are the competencies that students, for example, at the master level of studies, where I teach, would get after completing the master program. It's similar here as well, I know about University of Zagreb, at least. But there we are then following these competencies and how they relate to individual subjects and individual modules, and to what degree have you reached your outcomes, your learning outcomes specifically for certain skills and competencies. For example, critical learning, a bit general kind of skill, so there are related modules that build on this skill. I think critical thinking is a very important skill nowadays, specifically. So these are individual competencies. Individual competencies, if we look, we have sliced our ORUK database, and we have seen that individual competencies related to BIM are quite strong. And we hear that today as well. So we see among engineers in our database, and there are more than 5,000 engineers in this database, out of those who know something about BIM and have some skills in BIM area, 63% is using Revit, which is kind of a common knowledge. Then we have ArchiCAD, you see, and other softwares, some of them mentioned today, and in the end, Bexel Manager, interestingly, with a smaller percentage, but it is there. Then we see a slice across educational backgrounds. So we see what are architects using more, what are civil engineers using more, and then we see some additional disciplines there as well. We heard colleagues from geodesy sector today as well. So individual competencies, we know, we feel, we work, and we're sure that they are available and good at a decent level, at least, in our surrounding, in our region. But how about organizational competencies, inter-organizational competencies? Projects are basically a place where different organizations and individuals meet, and projects facilitate further learning and skill acquisition. And then in the end, the market or a country level of skills. So there is something that is not that well aligned in the transition from individual competencies to higher level competencies, I would dare to say, in this region generally. We evidence that in the EU, at least it is better, so in Croatia, Slovenia, in other countries in the region, it's a bit worse. One of the reasons for this is a traditional kind of style of unification when speaking about teamwork. We are good as individuals, and then as teams, not that much, with the extent of a Croatian football team. What is one of the big differences among the two? So group is a collection of separate individuals. They do not have common goals, usually. So a bunch of people on the beach. A team, as opposed to that, they are collectively responsible for the end results. So they should be motivated to perform together and get the final results, and they're collectively responsible. So that's a big difference, and we have a lot to do there. We researched within a team from the University of Belgrade. We research how are these competencies being built and being transferred from individual level to the higher country level, cross-organizational project level. So we have seen, as mentioned today, as we all know very well, that requirements are cascaded down, top-down, from the country level, policy, legislation, a BIM maturity, to the project level, where we have, again, BIM maturity, project delivery method, we have contract type, so more and more design and build contracts, and then these cascade down to organizational competencies, policy, technology, processes that we just heard about, and individual competencies. But what is more interesting is that how are the competencies being built? And this is an opposite direction, actually. So the competencies start from individual level, that we are all agreeing that they're quite good, in this room at least. They jump to organizational level, so people individually feed in their competencies into their companies. So companies should appreciate more the role of individuals, of engineers, in building the organizational capacity. That's one of the messages from today. Then organizations bring that to the project, and also organizations bring that to the country level. That's why the organizational level is a critical level. And that's why also, in the second part of the presentation, I wanted to provide a couple of advice for companies, if we have decision makers and managers in the room today. So the first advice, what to do in relation to building competencies at the organizational level. It is to measure where you stand and to set targets. How you can do that? We see, again, in our database, the highest capacity within designers, then it goes down across other type of stakeholders. There is a simple tool that measures BIM readiness. You can access it. It's free to use. It's available there on the link. And you can measure a simple aggregated index, BIM readiness, but you can also make your organization competence profile in different parameters. And once you have this spider network diagram, you can check it along the way. After some time, you can do snapshots and check after training, after individuals building your competencies, check where you stand again and again. The second advice is relatively simple one, but it takes a longer explanation. So the upper scheme, the upper part of the scheme is the organizational structures, or are the organizational structures that are relevant and good, but for the 20th century, for 50, 40 years ago. Unfortunately, most of the contractors in our industry and other players as well, investors, clients, public companies, but design companies as well, are still stuck with traditional organizational structures that are inherited from military organization, that are very vertical in organization, so command and reporting are exclusively vertical, seniority-based, etc. So what I ask, or I put advice there, is to, we all remember the movie, Back to the Future, so travel through the time. It's an easy task, yeah, but not too far. Just travel to the present, to the nowadays, not to the future. So time travel to the present, please. And in the present, what we should have? We should have a matrix structure. You can explore it, Google it further. Project structure, which we apply, but partly, and good projects that we heard about today surely apply project structure. And not to mention the further level going towards an organic structure, which is present in many companies, across many companies in the IT industry, and is among the reasons why IT industry is doing better than generally the construction industry. So staying with organic structure, what we see there, organic structure is good for turbulent environment, which is currently around us. It's good for learning organization, and it's good for natural system design. We all want that from our organizations. What else we see? Organic structure is characterized by a horizontal structure, adaptive culture, collaboration, shared information, and empowered roles. And if you see, there is a crazy high level of similarity with BIM requirements. We all are stating this in previous presentations, that BIM requires these characteristics from an organization. And organic organizational structure provides this kind of characteristic of an organization. So there are two reasons to go for that, for more organic, more contemporary type of organizational structuring. But please be smart in this, as they say in the UK. So we all have high expectations when we introduce a change, either organizational change, implementing BIM, going to digital transformation. We think it will solve everything, then we come to the point of despair, because it doesn't solve so many things. It doesn't solve many things, basically. And then we hope for a light at the end of the tunnel where we see a bit better performance than it was before. So what is an advice here? To lower down your expectations at the beginning, but still provide maximum of effort. So you would end up not that much into despair, and then at the end you would be at a much better place than before. The third advice, the last for today, please reward good practice. That's a simple thing, and it's not only related to financial performance and the salary, although that's the basic thing. But rewarding good practice in the UK, we have a practice at the university, but also in private sector organizations, that every year one individual in an organization at the faculty gets a title of a digital champion. And it's a very simple thing. It's not monetary reward, it's just the title that you take for the whole year, and then everybody more or less listens to you when you say this is a good software, this is a good practice, and you are chairing some meetings. But it's a very, very, very good measure to apply and very simple to apply. So we know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but what I like when I teach about motivation, I like to present Herzberg theory of motivation. And there you have hygiene factors, so the basic factors for satisfaction at the job. And this is pay, supervisory style, status, security, working conditions. And then more advanced motivational factors are related to the job content. And there you have achievement, advancement, growth, recognition, responsibility, and the work itself. You want relevant projects, so people will not join your organization if you don't have relevant projects, and will not stay if you do not fulfill job content motivational factors. And certainly, it's not motivated when you see a figure. This is from Serbia, a year and a half ago, but nevertheless very relevant to show architectural engineers, it's a survey we made, have 40% of architectural engineers have the salary level or had the salary level from 500 to 600 euros. So that's a shame. And that's not even a hygiene factor. You cannot survive out of this salary. That's sad. You cannot expect from them to, protect the interest of an organization adequately and provide the maximum of their effort. On the other hand, BIM managers, so sitting here today, they're much the better position with the salary, in terms of salary. So at least in Serbia, 1,500 to 2,000 euros, 50% of these kind of positions. So this is free to access. Again, it's a given link there. We have another research, which is on a bit separate, different topic, but it's still interesting. Just a revision, what to do from the company side. Measure where you stand, repeat that, time travel, but to the present only, and reward a good practice. At the end, you can join the center, the digitalnu izgradnju. It's a great, basically, achievement, what the center did for this year of existence, or less. And as they would say in the UK, keep calm and become a digital champion, which I believe many of you are already. You can also learn from the best, as they say. So POR, for example, has quite an educational resource on their website about BIM generally and how they approach to BIM being on the contractor side. So not only designers, investor, consultants, or software providers, but directly from the industry. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day today, and I wish you success in your careers and development. Thank you.